Here's another common one. Does an agent help with the draft when you hire one? Do you need an agent, Coach Andy, to help you
Okay.
get drafted?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I think you got to have the right understanding of what an agent does, and I'll tell you a little bit about my experience. Is that okay? Okay. So going into the perception people have, this is very very common, is that you get an agent so that they promote you and make calls and try to get you recognized, and that's the wrong perception to have of an agent because first of all, there's a lot of people that will call themselves agents or advisors that aren't truly agents and advisors, or they're starting out and they don't have experience and they'll take anybody. So there's a difference between agent A and agent B, and then there's even lower levels than that. So if agent A is not calling you or emailing you or getting in touch with you, that is a very big indicator early on that you're not a top prospect. It doesn't mean you can't be, but it's saying that's a very good indicator that you're not a top prospect, because what an agent ultimately, no, not ultimately, what an agent is in business for is to make money. They're not necessarily interested in just representing players. They're in it to make money. So if I go to you, Eric, and you're a fringe player, what agent do you think is coming after you? It's the lower level guy that wants to get a guy, say, yeah, I've got some kids in my stable here, right? But the highest end agents, which there's a handful, or and not a handful of agents, but a handful of companies that have the biggest agencies. They're only looking for, and they start young, and they like around 14ish, 15, and they start knowing who the best of the best is that they hear, and they start attaching themselves, like, presenting their thing to those people. If you're not getting that, it's just that you haven't been recognized as a top player, so they're not interested. They will be later if you are, right? And that's why you'll see later in life kids that were good, and they went with someone that said, oh, I can do this, and then they realize, okay, like at the end of the day, I need a better agent. Okay, so that's number one. If they're not getting one a couple of the top agencies coming after you, it's like it's because you're not a top prospect. Okay, now their job is not to promote you. How you promote yourself is how you play. That's number one. That's it. That's all. And there's going to be some people that push back and say, yeah, but agents do call. Well, that's their job at that point, but it's not to promote you, right? The way you play hockey is your promotion. So agent or not, you can get drafted, you can sign contracts, whatever. It's up to you, the player. Okay. So can they help you in the, what was the question? They can help you
Help with the draft.
help with the draft. Okay. So let's just say it's the CHL draft. So in the CHL draft, um, first of all, you're recognized and you're ranked. Now, in our experience, this is what I love about, and we had a discussion as we chose our agent, right? Said, like, I don't want my agent, because a lot of them, like, now if I have an agent that was an ex, like a really, like a big ex NHL player, and has a, like, understands that side of it, he can point out things in your game that could help, but to a point, right? So we had our discussion. It was like, okay, I I, I don't need someone to tell my son how to play hockey. Number one, he's got a coach. Number two, he's I don't want, like, information that could be wishy washy. So what I want the agent for is to take care of the business side if there is any. So in the OHL, how our agent helped us was not promoting. It was like my son would have these interviews, and then I would just, me or my son would let Ian know that this team talked, and then he goes, okay, I'll follow up with them. So he would follow up, and they would say, yeah, uh, we like him, and we if he's in this spot here, we're taking him. It was nothing that Ian said. It has nothing to do with that, because he's not going to say, well, draft him. He has no pull with that. to a point. So what it was good for us upcoming in the draft, we had whatever amount of teams that were saying we're looking at, reported to Ian, because I'm not doing it. Reported to Ian that this is the area that we're going to take him in if he's available. And then as the draft got closer, he would call and say, okay, so X team thinks that he can probably slide a couple picks. So the one that they told you that they're going to take him, probably not going to happen. This team, like this is where they slot him in. So it just gave us some information on an idea. So we didn't. So my son didn't go on draft day, and it didn't really matter because they're going to take him or not take him anyways. But to give it an indication that you don't have to wait too long, or you're going to have to. It's not going to be the greatest day of your life, right? So that was it, and that was valuable to us because we had a pretty good idea of where he was going to get picked in the draft. So that was good, but other than that, you don't actually need one in junior hockey.
Yeah, the parallel I draw is when we talk about like if you play on a top team, you get a few more looks. It's kind of that. It's like it's not the determining factor. Like if you're a top prospect in the OHL draft, the agent might be the difference just from conversations of you being plus or minus 10 picks or plus or minus a round or like something like that. But it's not like the difference of you getting drafted or not.
Yeah.
You know?
No, there is none.
So it's like if you're going to be a late pick, you'll be a late pick. If you have an agent, you'll still be a late pick. You might be a little higher, a little lower. If you have an agent and you're going to be a mid-round pick, you're still going to be a mid-round pick. Instead of going in round 6, maybe you go in round 5 or whatever, just because if you have an agent who's a real agent that actually talks to teams, then those conversations, sometimes just by talking, things can change just from having conversations. Not that they're saying, well, why don't you pick them at this spot or whatever. That's not what they do. And just to solidify that, again, same scout I was talking to the other day, he was mentioning a particular agent that was pushing for a player to be taken in a certain round. And from the scout's perspective with the organization, they're just like, "Why?"
Oh yeah, you were telling me this.
Yeah,
it's like why easy, buddy.
Yeah, like easy. Like, what are you pushing him so hard for? It's like that
because he's not that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's indicating to us, like if you're pushing so hard, like maybe there's not that much interest or whatever. If you have to sell them so much to us, you know. So it's quite the opposite. If you get these pushy agents that are calling, it's annoying. It's like you're bugging me now.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, so the other thing is like, so once you're drafted, depending on how early or how late, where the agent becomes beneficial to a certain degree is your first contract. And the OHL contract, it's actually pretty standard. So, but so for this is where it was beneficial to us. I don't want to talk to the coach or the general manager, like have conversations. But on the business side, I don't want to be the guy because maybe I'm a pushover or maybe I'm too pushy. So I want to leave that side.
Have like a third party negotiator
to the agent, right? To his agent. So when the contract came, it was like he was a lawyer, so he looked at the contract and said, "Okay, yeah, this is the standard," because it's actually standard. So he just wanted to make sure, and he's seen some contracts where you could get a little bit more, or whatever, but there's only so much you can get in junior, right? So it was that. Now after that, what could happen is you have to have your head on your shoulders if you do have an agent in junior hockey, because agents they want to be involved to a certain degree, right? So sometimes they try to solve problems that don't need to be solved. For example, you are maybe not playing, or maybe junior hockey is a funny place, right? Because people go into the CHL and they feel like their kids are the best. Like that's just the way it is, man. And if you get 3 shifts a period because you're 16 years old, no parent is happy with that, because you're going to just start looking up the line. Well, he played better there. He should have done this and should have got that. So if you go and start talking to your agent about it, and the agent goes, "Well, I'm going to call them and I'm going to sort this shit out." Well, how many times have you watched the kid play? You don't actually necessarily know, but you can have conversations and just, like, and that's what I was like. If you have a conversation, say, just, yeah, let him know, get a feel for where he's at. But it's like, what's the GM or coach going to say? They say, yeah, we'll give him more ice. No, they're going to say, yeah, he's doing fine. He's developing. It's all the same shit. You got to just figure it out. So, anyways, and then the last thing an agent can do, where they do have an effect, but I don't think it's a positive one necessarily, because I know people say, yeah, agents have some influence. So if you're the top agency, and let's just say you take whatever CHL team and you say, okay, so there could be a little bit of games. Like I'm not, if you don't trade this guy or if you don't get him X amount of shifts more, then that's the last player of my stable that's going to be coming to play for you, which is bullshit. But they have a little bit of, they could
There's
put
a
a
little bit
little
of that.
pressure on that. But the bottom line is, does it help with the draft? No.
Yeah.
No, you have to be a good hockey player. You have to do your part.
Yeah.
And then after that, they do the business side.
And I know you've talked about that a little bit more at the pro level too, how they can do like package stuff and whatever with NHL guys. So
Of course,
yeah,
of course. There's a little bit of if you want this guy's here.
yeah, right.
Take care of this guy. If you're gonna sign this guy for 500 grand, I got a guy that'll take the 500 grand, or else you don't get this guy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We'll get him signed somewhere else.